Good morning, everybody. So first, let me talk about the availability of the utilities that we all count on: electric, gas, and water. We're in constant communication with our electric provider, Tennessee Valley Authority. They are in good position to respond to the very cold weather. Typically, the valley is impacted with increased electric demand because of increased electric heat in some parts of the Tennessee Valley. That is not what happens in Memphis, Tennessee. We are subject to what happens in the valley. They are well positioned to respond, but we can't rule out the fact that should temperatures persist for a long time and stay very cold, that we might not all be asked to conserve energy so that we can have power for everybody. So we're well positioned there. With respect to our water, all of our 10 water pumping stations and reservoirs are full and fully operational. Our water wells are all working to full capacity. We have insulated all of them to prevent them from freezing up, and so we're well positioned from a water capacity. On our natural gas side, something we don't often talk about, we have 3 natural gas pipelines. We have plenty of guaranteed contracts for the delivery of gas from our suppliers. We also have stored natural gas for an eventuality just like this. We will be taking natural gas out of underground storage that is up in Midland, Kentucky, and distributing that to all of you. From our liquid natural gas plant down at Capelville, we will be vaporizing liquid natural gas and injecting that into our system. That ensures that all of you will have availability of natural gas to heat your homes. The issue becomes distributing those utilities to all of you. As the mayor talked about with respect to ice, that is our primary threat for the electric distribution system. We are forecast to have between 1/4 and 1/2 inch of ice. Customers should expect some power outages with that amount of ice because it will weigh the power lines and the trees down. We are on the cusp of more than 1/2 inch of ice. Should the front move slightly northward, we could accumulate more than 1/2 inch, and that's when you should expect widespread power outages because of the weight of the ice on those power lines and the trees. 1/2 inch of ice can add 1,000 pounds to a stretch of power line. You can imagine what the kind of damage that does. On the water side, persistent cold temperatures and lack of electricity can affect our ability to effectively pump water through those water mains. And also, prevalent cold temperatures will cause residential and commercial customers' pipes to freeze. That's why we ask all of you to please take precautions, because when that happens, there's a break in the pipe and the water pressure drops. While we might have plenty of water, the pressure drops to the point where we can't distribute it. So it's important for people to be prepared for, not just prepare for, but expect there to be some impacts to your electric availability. Expect that there could be some disruptions to your normal water supply. What are we asking you to do? Really good guidance about how to stay warm and what to do in your home with lack of electric power. But for the water side, make sure you have drinking water for your family and your pets. But the other thing I want you to do is prepare by having either some buckets, trash cans, your tub, or a deep sink filled with water so that you can also flush commodes. We don't want to pivot from one emergency to another because we have failed to prepare for that. All I ask is that everybody be prepared, have an expectation that you may have some disruptions, and that way you'll be ready for it when it comes. The last thing I'll say, we have secured additional contract electric overhead crews. We typically have 39 here working in Memphis and Shelby County. There are 50 more crews who have come from across America. They are pre-positioned in Shelby County today. They are ready to respond. But if we get the amount of sleet and ice that we expect, it may be a little slower response than we typically have. So the mayor said, everybody please stay off the roads. Let the emergency crews and the emergency response crews have room to maneuver. And we also don't need, as the mayor said, anybody taking out any more power poles than might already be impacted. So I want to appreciate everybody up front for your patience and diligence. Look for more updates from us with respect to availability and distribution of power, water, and gas. And I'll turn it over now to Mr. Morgan, who will talk about the roads and other infrastructure that the city will be taking care of.
Mayor, I noticed all the tree trimming going on yesterday. You feel confident that we kind of got it in a position to where
I think so, but I'll allow MLGW to speak to that.
So we've been doing that for the last 2 years, catching up on tree trimming. I'm glad to report that we did a 3-year cycle in just 2 years' time for the first time in decades. That's going to help us get through this, but the risk here is entire trees coming down, which is obviously a larger risk. What you saw yesterday was we took those tree trimming crews that are typically doing right-of-way clearance, and for the last 2 days they've been out combing the city looking for things that are at risk, limbs that look like they might have been damaged, limbs that are overhanging, so that they can identify them and remove them as a preemptive measure. That's the first time that we've done that, and so we think that that's going to be helpful as well for those limbs that could be at risk. So we're as prepared as we can be with the removal of the vegetation. The risk here does remain the very large trees that could come down in total and taking down power lines with them.
How much was your experience over the last few winters and the previous problems with TVA where we had to monitor that? How much has that played into play for the?
Well, I think it's fair to say, Bill, that we are all much more well prepared than we were in 2022. There was a heck of a lot of lessons learned during that period of time, most of it around planning, forecasting, and actually behaviors of customers during very cold temperatures, which were a little unusual during that period of time. We have much better forecasting models now, much better preparedness. Some of the TVA generating plants have been winterized and insulated. Part of the problem before was freezing rain, blowing snow and sleet that got into some areas that weren't protected. Those are all protected now. There was a lack of a somewhat mismatch between the amount of energy demand and the amount that TVA can produce. They have 2,000 more megawatts this year than they had in 2022. That's in a system that produces 35,000 megawatts of power. So it's a substantial increase. We at MLGW and the city, I know the more you do this, the more prepared you get. We understand what's required to respond. We have typically, as most utilities have been in the past, reactive, and we have been preemptive or thinking ahead. In this case, we got those electric crews here and pre-positioned in advance of the storm. And so I think that's something that's going to allow us to prepare, be more prepared and be more responsive. So the answer is yes, we are more ready. We cannot control the weather. We cannot control the impacts of what could be a historic ice storm. Right now, it looks like it's not going to be as severe as it was in '94, but things could change. South of us, it's looking every bit as severe as it was in 1994. So we're just thinking about everybody in the area, and I think all of us are much more well prepared than we had been in several years.
Is it fair to say there'll be no cutoffs during this cold weather?
I'm sorry. MLGW, as a matter of course, does not cut customers off when we reach below freezing temperatures, no matter what your payment status is, because we want people to be able to have heat and power during that period of time. So just because you haven't paid, now we'd encourage everybody not to not pay, but for those folks that are in a status, we will not be cutting people off, and we'll announce when we return to cutoffs.